Good Saturday morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this weekend edition here at Gulf Coast Weather Solutions. There's not much going on in the Tamco live Doppler radar right now, but we are starting to see a little bit, I would say, this is mostly some sprinkles moving into the region, but if we kind of zoom out just a little bit, you can see that offshore, that's where a lot of that moisture is going to continue moving in. You actually can see some heavy downpours. This will be moving into our region later this morning into the afternoon, but notice parts of central Texas. This is now moving into the towards the East Texas region, but Leander, Liberty Hill last night near Austin got up to 8 to 10 inches of rain. That is some true flash flooding. That was pretty dangerous towards those areas. Again, that continues to keep moving. It's not moving into our region, but we are seeing that moisture continues to move in, and we're going to see some scattered showers and storms later this morning, especially this afternoon in the heat of the day and the moisture. It's going to combine kind of what we've seen really the last several days. So heavy rainfall in parts of central Texas right now. You can see towards Victoria, there's some of those downpours. This is more really offshore. This is going to continue moving into our region, mainly later this morning into the afternoon hours, thanks to our sponsor of Tamco Helgar Beyond Class 4. Not much going on, but we do think that the activity is going to pick up later this morning, especially this afternoon. Look at the current temperatures. I mean, it is warm already. You can see that the warm, moist air from the Gulf is here, 80 degrees down towards the coast, almost at the 80-degree mark along the I-10 corridor, mostly into the upper 70s, and then far towards the north is into the low to mid-70s as well, too. So we're warm. We're ready to go with anything with some tropical-like downpours again later on this afternoon. Thanks to our sponsor of Neutron Electrical Services. For outdoor and construction plans or anything just outdoor-wise, again, it's pretty iffy right now, not too bad. But once we get later to this morning, especially this afternoon, we should get at least a 60% coverage. I would say 60 to 70% coverage towards Houston, towards Beaumont, Jasper, at least 60%, and over there towards Louisiana, 50 to 60% coverage. So another pretty active day today. And when we get into Sunday, at least another 40 to possibly 50% coverage day. So today and tomorrow is our last 2 days because once we get into this upcoming week, we will dry out a little bit. Here we are looking at the Futurecast, sponsored by Switch Electric. Again, we're going to watch this kind of come in from the west, and they're going to move northeast. So we'll see the storms. Let me move out of the way just real quick. You can see towards El Campo, Lake Jackson, and the Woodlands regions. That's where all that's going to be later this morning. And then the coverage just continues to pick up, especially once we get that sunshine to kind of warm us up a little bit. Heat of the day along with this moisture, this can make this really kind of have some locally heavy rainfall like we've seen. I would say majority of the region, about a half an inch to up an inch of rain is possible. It's these isolated areas that can get 1 to 2 inches of rain, even like we've seen the last couple of days. It's not impossible to see the isolated area get up to 2 to 3 inches. So that's what we'll be seeing once again, the potential for locally heavy rainfall. And then overnight tonight, a lot of this dies down. You could see an isolated little downpour, but really you lose the heat of the day. You really do lose the storms. Now, once we transition into Sunday, again, I'm at least going with 40 to possibly 50% coverage. Getting into the isolated to still scattered nature, we can see you get with the heat of the day later in the morning time. Again, here's some scattered storms popping up once again on Sunday morning, getting into Sunday afternoon. This possibly will kind of skirt a little bit more into the Woodlands, Conroe, and what we call our Jasper and Lakes region, but still we're expecting at least another active day on Sunday. Not everybody's going to get in on this action, but still, if you look at the radar, there are going to be some storms nearby our location. So today and tomorrow, we've got deeper moisture still pushing in. That's what's keeping the rain chances alive, sponsored by Do Good Credit Union. All that pink is just high levels of moisture. That's why we're very humid, very warm. We continue to do that today and tomorrow. But once we get into Monday and Tuesday, notice it starts to thin out. A lot of that moisture kind of stays offshore. You can really see that Tuesday and Wednesday. So what do we do this week? We still have rain coverage, but it's very low. Just 10, 20, maybe 30% coverage as best. So with the less rain coverage, we will get more into the low 90s, possibly into the mid 90s in some locations. But this week, we will be somewhat kind of drying out versus what we've kind of been dealing with. What we will watch is at the end of the week. Here we are getting into Thursday and Friday. Probably going to see another large amount of deep moisture push into the southern Gulf. How far does it actually go? Does this go more into Mexico, possibly into South Texas by dry next weekend. We will keep an eye on it. This does bring our rain chances possibly a little bit higher once we get into Friday, possibly around 30 to 40% coverage. We will keep an eye on this. This is that time of year deep tropical moisture continues to push into the Gulf. A lot of this comes from the Central America region. So here's our rainfall outlook. It's today and tomorrow that we've got these scattered showers and storms. Locally heavy rainfall can be possible for isolated areas. Then, as we transition into this upcoming week, mostly dry. It's kind of moving into what we call the rain lottery. If you get rain, it's like winning the lottery, I guess. But you get more into these isolated nature, 10, 20 to really 30% coverage at best. The 30% coverage will be later this week if a lot more of that deeper moisture can move back into our region. But a much better forecast once we get into Monday, Wednesday, this upcoming week. We do dry out, but it will warm us up. This afternoon, mostly going to be into the mid-80s. Some areas could get into the upper 80s. Because of this heat and the moisture, this is what's going to give us a pretty active late morning, especially this afternoon with some of these showers and thunderstorms. Thanks to a sponsor of Silsbee Ford. Get you one. And then overnight tonight, we're going to just see maybe an isolated storm or a downpour. That's about it because it's going to be mostly quiet but muggy. But that's what we see this time of year in June. Low to mid-70s north of the I-10 corridor. Some areas can be in the upper 70s. But if you're along the I-10, mid to upper 70s down towards the coast into the low 80s. The next 7 days for southeast Texas, we're seeing the end, I guess, light at the end of the tunnel, you could say. Today and tomorrow is pretty active, and then this week we get to mostly dry. Rain doesn't 100% cut off. It's just very isolated, summer-like pattern. But because of the less cloud cover, the less rain, we're back into the low 90s. Some areas might get into the mid-90s. And then by the end of the week, we'll see if some of that moisture sneaks back into our region. Same thing for southwest Louisiana. Today and tomorrow is really our best potential for some heavy downpours at times. And then this upcoming week, we get mostly dry with warmer temps getting into the upper 80s to possibly low 90s, getting into that summer-like pattern, drying out a little bit more of just the isolated nature. Because the potential for some isolated locally heavy rainfall, this is a really good time to go download the free Gulf Coast Weather Solutions app. You can pull out the handy-dandy radar, see where some of those storms are, and if you're just having some type of party or get-together, whatever it may be, and you can't track all the storms, we will send you notification when the rain is moving in and out of your area. So please go download our free Gulf Coast Weather Solutions app. Have a wonderful Saturday. Thanks to all of our sponsors for allowing us to have Gulf Coast Weather Solutions and these shows and our free Gulf Coast Weather Solutions app. Have a great Saturday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll have more posts throughout the day today, keeping everybody updated on what's going on the radar. Have a great weekend.
Gulf Coast Weather Solutions is sponsored by
At Gulf Coast Weather Solutions, we focus on delivering reliable weather forecasts. Our new app provides reliable weather updates and alerts no matter where you are. With real-time weather alerts and warnings, you can stay informed and prepared wherever you go. Download the Gulf Coast Weather Solutions app today on the App Store and Google Play and stay connected no matter where you are.